to Strictly Rangers. I am Jacob Browne, joined here with my dad. And actually, we got to switch it into this. Okay, there we go. So we're doing Strictly Rangers today. The Rangers are playing right now against the Washington Capitals as we speak. We wanted to get a pod in before the next week starts. And, we were going to wait for after this game, but I think we pretty much know how this one's going to go. It's the Sunday afternoon game against the Capitals. 4-1 Capitals with Keith Kinkaid in net right now. Going into this game back to back with your backup goalie, who I guess he's the number 2 now, Keith Kinkaid. With this, it seems like a message at least with Georgiev not in the lineup. And it is 4-1 with 10 minutes and 50 seconds left in the third period. Colin Blackwell had the lone Rangers goal so far. So if they score while we're talking, that'll be something positive to talk about today. But so Dad, well, I guess we could start with that. So Keith Kinkaid in net today instead of Alexander Georgiev. It seems like some sort of message from David Quinn. First game back today for him.
Probably a combination of things, right? I don't know. They started skirting around the edges.
Hey, sorry. 4-2. Blackwell just scored again.
Wow.
Look at that.
The future is Blackwell.
Yeah, I said right before we went on air, he kind of pisses me off because I think we all know he's not going to be part of the team. But hey, good for him. 2 goals today.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, the Rangers are on the cusp of being real for the playoffs somewhat. It's a little bit of an illusion in the sense that, they're 2 points behind Philadelphia right now and like 6 points behind something like that with Boston. But Boston's got like 2 or 3 games in hand. And so, Boston is really the one you got to think about. Is it reasonable to expect with 3 games in hand that they're going to fall behind the Rangers in this rush? I don't know, but the Rangers think it's legitimate. The fan base thinks it's legitimate. So I don't think you're going to send a message necessarily with your goalies. I think you're going to go with whoever you think gives you the best chance to win. And so right now, that's not the case with Georgiev. That's not how Quinn views Georgiev. I don't. It's not message sending time. It's let's get 2 points hopefully and go on from there.
Yeah, and some people are shocked this year at why the Bruins are not performing up to par. Just look at their roster. I mean, you got Pastrnak, Bergeron, Marchand, and then other than that, their first line right winger is Trent Frederick. Then you have Nick Ritchie and Craig Smith on your second line. Third and fourth lines don't have very much offensive production at all. I think the Torrey Krug loss really affected them. Not having that offensive guy on that side of the puck. I mean, Charlie McAvoy's nice, but Torrey Krug was the guy. I mean, he was on all their power plays. And I get it, Zdeno Chara is a bit older too, but, he was there forever. So losing a guy like that might have hurt them. But, they don't have that fear factor that they used to. Obviously, they've handled us pretty easily this year, but that was at different points of the year. And I think at this point, we kind of know that the Flyers are not much of a threat. We've been all over Carter Hart on the Strictly Hockey pod about how he's definitely overrated. I think the Rangers definitely can catch up to the Bruins and get that spot. They just have to play consistently for the rest of the season. And I think with the group of guys they have right now, they're starting to kind of mend together, similar to last year. You start off slow, the year goes on, they start to gel, and later part of the year, they start to execute. But as far as the goalies go, I think I agree with you. They just want the guy that gives them the best chance every night. But I think also now it's 5-2 Capitals. I think we talked about this as well. Georgiev costs more, so I think if they can offload him, you get rid of his cap hit. You can have Keith Kinkaid for half the cost, if not more than that, more than half the cost less than Georgiev, and he gives you the same production. You're going to do it. So this seems like a tryout, but today he ain't doing so well because he's letting some softies, and the one just now was kind of a tip in that maybe he could have stopped. And, you're not going to get what we thought we were going to get going into the year. You thought, oh, we're set with Shesterkin and Georgiev, but now you don't really know who your 2 is. I don't think it matters that much. Igor's going to play like 75% of the games anyway. I think the Rangers can absolutely catch up to Boston. I think they have Philadelphia's number for the most part. And, if they just start playing consistently, beating up on the Sabres, beating up on the Devils. That's really where it's going to make some inroads. But the Rangers still have to play the Penguins a lot. They still have to play the Islanders a lot. And the Capitals have their number this year as well. So it's not going to be an easy road.
No, I don't. I don't. I'm not optimistic about it. Candidly, I think. Look, Boston is a year or maybe 2 years away from. I don't know what their prospect pool looks like. I don't know where their system is rated or anything like that. But they're a year or two away
Sorry,
from the.
5-3.
Oh wow!
Jeez, this goal's like that was Lafreniere off a rebound.
Oh, good, good.
There we
This is
go.
good. This is good for them.
Yeah, no, I mean you take the law, but at least you're fighting back and scoring goals.
Yeah. So where was I? Oh, I think Boston is maybe probably 2 years, three at the outset away from the wheels just completely falling off that operation with the current group. I mean, they're older. Pasternak is not, but there's going to come a point where Bergeron. I should probably know the ages of these guys before I make these claims.
No, they're mid-30s. You're right. Patrice Bergeron and Brad Marchand are getting up there.
So Patrice Bergeron, yeah, he's already 35, and it's not just age with these guys. It's a lot of miles on those skates. They've played a lot of playoff hockey. They've gone deep into runs, and so realistically speaking, are they going to be the top contributors to this organization going forward? If they are, then it's going to be that much more difficult. But I still think where they are right now makes them they've got the pedigree. They're still got that kind of swagger to their game. They know when to turn it on, when to turn it off, and I think, or at least I should say, they know when to turn it on. But they don't. Nobody wants to turn it off. But I just think they're more formidable. They're more mature. And I think when games get tough going forward, they're gonna have the kind of wherewithal to understand how to navigate those waters. Whereas I think if you look at the Rangers, the Rangers were doing exceedingly well. Then they lost in Philadelphia, but the roots of the loss in Philadelphia actually started in the 8-3 win because. Yeah, it looks great on paper, outside looking in, but 8-3, they gave up 44 shots in that game. So what that tells you there is that they kind of went away a little bit from what made them successful. And that Philadelphia game, the second Philadelphia game, they were not that kind of offensive juggernaut, so to speak, that they had been in terms of creating chances. They were, I think, significantly outshot in the Philly game. They were significantly outshot in this game today for most of the game.
Yep.
So it's what we talk about it every pod, right? It's a young team. They don't know why they do well, and they don't know why they do individually, I should say, and they don't know why they do shitty, right? So they're just like relying on talent and skill, and there's got some veterans there that chip in, and you can't dismiss the reality that Mika Zibanejad going on a holy shit run masks a lot of problems, right? They're not getting production from Kakko. They're not getting it from Hedel. They're these guys that you need to show something are not showing it. Gone are the days where it's like, hey, let's just it's going to come, that blind faith, especially with Hedel. And this is Zibanejad, Panarin, Kreider, Buchnevich, and Strome. Those five guys basically are the entire offense, night in and night out.
And Adam Fox.
Oh yeah, I'm saying up front.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that's not a good formula. When Zibanejad goes off and Panarin comes back, I mean, it masks a lot of realities. And yes, those guys are growing, and yes, they're developing, and all that other shit. But at some point, put a fucking puck in the net, and how many other 20 and 21-year-olds have the capacity to do? Not 40 a night, 40 a goal a year, but at this point, why is it so difficult for us to presume that after however many games that Kako can't have 10 fucking goals, and Heedle same,
Right.
even being injured. You know what I mean? And
No, at this, yeah, right. Heedle's been back for a long enough period of time that he's got to start chipping in goals. He's not even getting assists, and it's almost at this point. And I've been on the fence for about a week and a half now. If Heedle doesn't start soon, he's trade bait. I'm sorry.
oh,
He's 21 years old now. He doesn't use his body the way he should. He's not aggressive. He doesn't shoot when he should. He's not getting any assists, like I said. It's not Brett Howden level. At least, you hear Heedle's name, but it's almost getting to a Howden level to where he's not producing at all. And the only time that Heedle has produced, when you really look at his career, is little 15-game stretches. And other than little stretches in parts of seasons, he's been zilch, zero. He doesn't do anything. So I think at some point, if a Buffalo comes ringing on your phone, Heedle's the first name you give them. You say, okay, we'll give you Heedle. We'll give you whoever else. But, and maybe it's not Eichel. Maybe it's some other guy. Who knows? But I think Heedle at this point is completely expendable. I don't, and you said maybe he'd be better off on the wing. You got a guy like Morgan Barron coming up who's producing very much in the AHL. They started him off at wing, and I've been high on him since we started this podcast. I mean, 6'4", captain at Cornell or whatever college he went to. Maybe it was Harvard. I forget which one. Cornell. He was a scorer there. Comes into the AHL, was scoring on the wing. They move him to center. He scored 2 goals in his first game at center. This is a guy, get him up now, because if he's a guy with size, with speed, has those leadership qualities, Heedle's out the window. You forget he exists because Barron could perfectly fill in that third line center. But, with Kakko, I think obviously there's you look at the other 20, 21-year-olds in the league and you get wowed and you say, wow, look at these guys, they can score. But for the large majority of guys, they do take a few years. I'm not saying this excuses Kakko not scoring any goals. He should absolutely at least be scoring 10 goals this season. He might not even get there. He probably won't. So he's definitely got to chip in more, but I'm going to give him some more time. We've given Heedle now, what is this, 3 years now for him? Let's wait till the end of next season. If Kakko is still a guy who's not chipping in at all, that's when you wave the danger flag and you say, okay, maybe this isn't the guy we drafted. So I'm not about to jump ship with him, but he's not doing anything either. Before he got on the COVID list, at least he was playing the body. He was getting some points. He was driving to the net. Now he's not really doing any of that again. So he's kind of going back and forth in terms of, okay, we're excited about him. He's not scoring goals, but we see the potential. Right back to, okay, we're not seeing anything and we don't know when anything is coming. But at least Lafreniere, pitching in a goal today, he's been productive at least. You see him on a game-to-game basis doing things at least, and you at least see the future for him. But Kakko and Heedle are very concerning. And when you got a guy like Morgan Barron coming up for you, you want those to see that. And we took a quick pause there because my dad was doing some extracurriculars, and my dog came in the door, and I haven't seen her in a few weeks. It's nice to see her. It's my dog, Abby. She's got some very insightful input for you YouTube listeners, watchers who are seeing her. So, I forget what I was saying because we paused. But, we were saying the rookies got to do stuff.
Yeah. I mean, look, Kakko's got, I think, 4 goals this year, right? But he's got 4 goals in 3 games, and one's an empty netter. At some point, it's frustrating to watch. And Heedle, the more I see him, the more clear it is that he's just not a guy that should be playing center. I don't think he has the hands or the vision for it. He can make good moves, but good moves aren't always about hands. Sometimes it's about speed and body position and things of that nature. But he doesn't have like the delicate kind of hands that even that Lafreniere has, or even Kakko for that matter.
No. And he was always a guy
with the stick. And so he's not looking to pass. He's not creating havoc. He has one move, which is basically skate down into the corner, stop, pull up, and try to feed someplace,
Right. Right.
And I mean, that's great, if that's all, if you're a winger, but I mean, he's a center and he's just not present enough.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 5 goals, 4 assists in 19 games. Kakko's got 4 and 2 in 26. And to me, like, I mean, just saying it out loud, I mean, if Jesper Foss could be on a line with Strome and Panarin and pick up the point, there's no excuse. I mean, I'm sorry, I get the waiting. At least put up some assists. You're with fucking Panarin, for crying out loud, and Strome, who are producing like crazy. They don't stop scoring and producing. So
now he hasn't been there. He hasn't been there all season, but still,
most of the time.
But Panarin and Strome have been producing throughout this stretch, right? And so,
or total. I mean, the whole time they've been together, they've been producing.
Right. So I'm saying when Kakko's been with them, they're still putting up points. And yes,
right.
they're getting some power play points, but still, it's like, I don't know, can't the puck hit off your fucking, your ball sack or something and go in? I mean, like,
yeah.
It's just,
hold on. It's 5-4 Rangers with 2 minutes left. I missed the 4th goal.
Oh boy.
Well, hey, we might be on air for a little comeback here.
So Blackwell.
Lafreniere, and then who?
What the hell happened?
Sorry for the pause here. We just started this recording thinking the game was over. And you know what?
Kreider.
There we go. And you know what? He's been there all season too. We mentioned him as part of the Big Five, but he's worth the $7 million. Period. I mean, he started off slow, but he's worth it.
Yeah, at this point, no doubt. Because you got, I kind of refer back to, the baseball terminology. Wins above replacement. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I know there's no comparable stat that's got enough value to it in hockey, but I mean, maybe we'll make one up and say goals above replacement. Like, where would those 17 goals have come from?
Right.
If he's not part of this team. And so he's young enough where the 7 years I think is worth it. And he's producing at a level where I think you would hope he always did, because he's probably on a 35 goal pace if this was an 80 game season.
Probably. And they're showing a graphic right now. Rangers in the first 2 periods total had 11 shots, no goals. Now they have 9 shots in the third period, 4 goals. So, it shows you how Samsonov is, very inconsistent, but there's 1:39 left. And I'm sure everyone's going to be listening to this pod knowing the outcome. We're just watching it live. But yeah, I mean, even if they lose, they put up a fight. They play them again Tuesday night. And what time do they play them? They play them on Tuesday night at 7:00 at home. So that'll be nice to be in front of the home fans. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't think they're, we've talked when Kreider was, when he got the contract, we said really the number one reason to sign him is there's not many 6'4" power forwards that put up goals. There's just not. And you'll have your issues with Kreider, the spurts where he doesn't do anything. You can complain about how he uses his body, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, what he gives you is something that not a lot of guys in the NHL can give you. And that's why he got paid. So we also talked about Zibanejad to lead off the pod. He's been incredible. And I think that's really what's led this surge. It's not just Zibanejad, but it's Fox. I mean, he has been incredible. I mean, he's establishing himself now as an elite tier offensive defenseman. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And even defensively, he's not a liability at all.
No,
and
not at all.
And the other day, he showed it. I mean, he was guarding the empty net, dove in front of it, blocked one with his stick. He's an all-effort guy. He's phenomenal defensively. Offensively, I think they said he had 11 assists in the last 5 games or something like that. I mean, this is insane. So, and 5 assists in the Philly game. And we talked about the last pod, top 5 Ranger defenseman ever. Fox is, we saw those other guys that were on that list. They were a lot like Fox early on, putting up points consistently. So this is rare for Rangers history, period. And I think we should start to cherish it because obviously he's young. He has those problems that you always point out, where he dipsy doodles a little bit too much and maybe he'll get laid out in the playoffs. But he's at the point that you want him to be at right now. I mean, I didn't even expect this. He's blown me away.
Well, he's the first there was Kevin Hayes and VC that the Rangers went all out to acquire the rights to when those guys were both free agents coming out of college and had a lot of their stock was really high. And I would argue that neither one of clearly VC didn't pan out.
VC sucks.
Yeah, and I would argue that Kevin Hayes was a much better looking package on the outside than he was on the inside, and I don't he's not tearing it up in Philadelphia. He was who he was. Certainly, very thankful the Rangers haven't invested $7 million in him the way for the next 5 years the way Philly has.
Yeah.
So. But Fox comes out of college, highly touted, highly regarded, and I came in with, thinking, okay, here we go again, another one of these, blue chip prospects from the Ivy League or from the collegiate ranks that winds up being nothing. But he's been a really refreshing add to this team. You lose a guy like D'Angelo on your power play, and Fox is equal to, if not better. He's less expensive than D'Angelo at this time, and they're going to have to do something to unload that contract at some point. So, you got a power play, quarterback for years to come. You got someone who's smart with the puck, defensively sound, and so what's not to like. And when you look at it and you think, okay, him and Miller have come into this, onto the ice at essentially the same time, a year apart. It's a pretty damn good foundation when you think about what the Rangers have to build on. Their entire decor is young. I mean, Trouba's 26. He's like the old man.
Yeah, everyone considers him the vet, and he's 26.
Yeah, Lindgren's young, 23 years old. Brendan Smith, he's not here for the long term. Hayek, 24, 25, whatever he is.
Right, and then you got Tarmo and Nils Lundqvist and Schneider and Robertson and all those dudes coming up too.
Yeah. The Morgan Barron thing, I'm going to reserve judgment because I hope he's not another VC and Kevin Hayes. But having said that, though, you can't plug him in and say, okay, we got him coming, therefore it's done. The big piece here is going to be Kravtsov. Is Kravtsov, a legitimate top six type of guy? And if he is, that changes the entire dynamic because then it makes different people available and different choices to be made. You're not going to figure it out in the next 20, 25 games, whatever is left, in this season. Maybe he shows enough. And we said this the other day offline. Maybe he shows just enough to get traded, which I would really hate because I be another situation where a Ranger went somewhere else and flourished. You know what I mean? But you take that chance. If it's in an Eichel trade, I guess you take that chance. But we'll see.
For Eichel, yes. I mean, no doubt. But by the way, the Rangers did just lose. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see him. And I'm going to pull up the quote from David Quinn talking about him today, which kind of nerved us a little bit. He said, I literally just said hi to him this morning for the first time. We haven't talked in depth about the plan for him. Okay, so this could be one or two things. Number one, he's telling the truth. Or number two, he's doing the Joe Girardi tactic where he kind of dances around questions, not wanting to reveal anything. I really want to hope it's number two because I wouldn't want to think that an NHL franchise with a top 10 prospect on the way doesn't have a plan for him. That would seem a little curious, but I think it probably is number two. There's no way that you bring him over here, you bring him into practice, blah, 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 without having any idea of what you want to do with him, especially after.
Well, I'm rereading the quote right now. I think it might just be that Quinn hasn't spoken to Kravtsov in depth.
Okay.
That might be what he's saying, right? So I think it's one of two things. He's pulling a Girardi, which is complete deflection, and I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to tell you a reporter because then there's going to be 1,000 articles out there tomorrow saying how David Quinn has got to set up his ass about his Kravtsov plan and blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
So that's one possibility, very distinct possibility. And the other possibility is just this that he was saying that I haven't spoken to Kravtsov about the in-depth plan for him because it's beyond comprehension, really. And but you and I both were of this opinion earlier, but thinking through it a little bit more, it's beyond comprehension that an NHL franchise would not have a significant plan laid out for this kid, considering that he's been coming for months and months and months, and so I read it differently the second time around. So, but you got to just hope. You got to hope that Kravtsov could come in and show who he is, and then give the franchise confidence that either they can go with what they've got, or whether they got to pivot away from that. But we've said it a million times, and I'm echoing what Steve Alloquette said on Ranger broadcast a while back. They and we've said it as well, right? Next year is where the rubber meets the road. They've got to have a full, mature roster ready to roll. And that means that the fourth line has got to be reinvented. It's got to be more of a fourth line that the Islanders have. And you don't just snap your fingers and come up with those guys, right? Those guys are identity lunch pail dudes but there's three of them out there somewhere, right? We know that none of them are on the fucking Rangers right now, right? And there's 32 teams out there that each have 20 guys and a bunch of kids in the minors and all that shit. So if there's three guys per team out there that are like that, make the trade for one of those 90 something, one or two or three of those 90 something players that can contribute grit and authentic, physicality, because you're going nowhere for the next couple of years in the East, trying to get through Ovechkin and Tom Wilson and all the beasts on the Islanders and so forth, unless you can play some of that game.
No, I completely agree. I mean, some Ranger fans will be like, "Oh, why'd you get rid of Lemieux then?" And we haven't mentioned it fully, but Brendan Lemieux traded last night to the Los Angeles Kings for a fourth-round draft pick. And by the way, some Ranger fans say, "What the fuck? You got a fourth-round draft pick?" Igor Shesterkin is a fourth-round draft pick, so they're valuable. But even though the NHL draft is the weakest in sports, well, actually basketball is. But anyway, the fourth line right now with Lemieux gone, DiGiuseppe, Rooney, Blackwell, all expendable. They could all leave tomorrow, and I don't think anyone would bat an eye. There's some Ranger fans that probably like these guys. They're like, "Oh, I love Blackwell, blah, blah, blah." They're not going to be here next year. I don't think any of the three will. I think they're guys that are going to fill in now. And for when Kravtsov comes into the lineup, which we're assuming he will, he's going to have to come in for either DiGiuseppe, Gauthier, or Blackwell. I think it would be a crime against humanity to take Gauthier out of the lineup. 6'4" with the way he's playing, and I would remove DiGiuseppe. I mean, listen, he seems like the next Fost, where they're like, "Oh, he's really great defensively, blah blah blah." He doesn't pitch in offensively. He's not the most physical. He's kind of irrelevant, and again, he's not part of the future. So Gauthier, he can be part of the future. Play him, and then put Kravtsov in for DiGiuseppe. Blackwell's played well enough to where he's been used on the power play, and he can at least be here for now, and then next year, who gives a shit? But that's how I would get Kravtsov into the lineup, remove DiGiuseppe.
Yeah, look, it's no-brainer stuff.
It seems to be no-brainer stuff, but for all we know, Quinn will take Gauthier out for icing the puck.
Yeah, well, yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. It's no-brainer stuff, but I don't know if they're balancing and weighing what their intentions are for this year as a team versus the development of certain kids. We said a million times. The bottom line is that this is a development year. This year was not about, hey, let's see how deep we can get into the playoffs. They made the playoffs. It's a miracle. I still believe that. I don't think this team is good enough, consistently enough to get 5, 6, 7 games above 500, which is where they need to be to start separating themselves. And to your point earlier, you play Buffalo and New Jersey, but so does everybody else. That's not where you're going to.
Yeah,
you're going to make up your points. How many of those games against Pittsburgh, right? That they could have, should have won. There's, that. Let's say there's a 3-game swing right there. Playoffs look entirely different right now. But you're right. If Gauthier sits when Krastov comes, then I mean, really, it's a total what the fuck moment because
Yeah.
whether it's Di Giuseppe or Blackwell, great. They're energy guys, but I talked about this before. Both of them suffer from the fact that they're too good to be fourth line players offensively, but not really good enough to be third line players with the personnel the Rangers have right now, currently on the roster. So where the hell do they fit, right? So figure out where the guys that you're invested in. All the guys in that 20 to 23 range or younger, figure those guys out, and then we'll see what next year brings.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And going into this week, Rangers get the Sabres twice, once on April 1st. They get the Capitals again Tuesday, then the Sabres twice on the road on Thursday and Saturday. They get 2 days off, then the Penguins twice, the Islanders twice, and then in the middle of April, they get the Devils for 4 games in a row. So I think if you can get through, they get, you can afford a loss versus the Capitals again, although you don't like it, but it might happen. Win both Sabre games, because at this point, if you're serious about the playoffs, you got to beat them both times. They lost like 16 games in a row at one point. They're not a good team. Then you get the Penguins twice, take 3 out of 4 points, split those 2 games, and then you play the Islanders, same thing. But the Devils, it's hard to say this, but if you're serious about making the playoffs, sweep them those 4 games. It's hard to do that, but the Devils are not a good team. So that to me is going to make the mark for the season. How do you perform in those 4 games? Because I think this team's good enough to where they're going to split against Pittsburgh. I don't think they get 0-2'd versus the Islanders. But if they get through that and they're still in the same position where you say, oh, they're 4 points out of the playoffs going into the 13th against the Devils, if you can get 2, 4, 6, 8 points in 4 games, who knows what could happen at that point?
Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios that shape up, and you're right. That's how you do it. You got to take 3 out of 4 points that are available against the Pittsburghs, and you got to come back on Tuesday and take 2 points away from Washington. It's that simple. I mean, we're not chasing Washington. We're not really chasing the Penguins at this point, but we are. Those are the teams that are more likely to beat a Boston, right? So if we're beating Washington and Boston's losing to those, it's kind of like a 4-point swing in that regard. It's a indirect 4-point swing. So you got to beat the teams that Boston is a little bit more vulnerable against, and you've certainly got to beat all the teams that Boston should run over as easily as we should. I wouldn't throw New Jersey in that bucket because they've proven themselves to be.
Yeah, I mean, they play well. They're a thorn in your side type of team. They're not as bad as the Sabres, but
no, they're not even close, right? And they got they're got 28 points to the Rangers 36. And it seems like a big deal, but they've only got 3 less wins, and two more losses, right? So now I would say the Rangers are a plus team in terms of goals for, and that's probably more indicative of I'll go to the standings right now. But this is not showing it. But the plus minus for the Rangers at one point was equivalent to that of the of I think, if I'm not mistaken, the Capitals, right? So the Rangers were like plus 17 or 18.
Well,
goals.
yeah, we're plus 15, they're plus 20, and just a quick observation too. Every single playoff team right now has a plus in the plus except for St. Louis and Chicago. And Chicago's probably going to slip out, and Dallas playing 4 less games than everyone else, they're plus 4. So if Dallas makes it, you'd have one playoff team as it stands right now, the St. Louis Blues, with a minus and plus minus differential making the playoffs. So the Rangers at a plus, that's a playoff team, or it's indicative of you're in that range where you could be a playoff team.
Well, let's look at it this way. The Rangers are plus 15 at this point, and realistically, they're plus 14 in 2 games against Philly, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of tells you where they really are. They're in a real sense, they're about an even team. But that's nothing to sneeze at. Being that they're so young, so you take those 2 games out of the equation, and they're still a plus 1 team. And the Philadelphia, which is theoretically ahead of them in the standings, is at minus 18, minus 14. In those 2 games against the Rangers.
Right.
But New Jersey minus 23, Buffalo minus 50,
That is
St.
so
Louis in
bad.
the other conference. Let's go with I got Detroit minus 39, Columbus minus 23, Nashville minus 16. So these now there's not there's not that much of a gap between where the Rangers are and where they need to be in a year from now. It's just these guys getting older and figuring out which ones are going to stick. But this kind of gets back to the root of the conversation, which is what's more important, figuring out what you got versus making the playoffs. Yes, I'd love to make the playoffs. It's all well and good, get them experience and all, and maybe the run will be beneficial. But they're not coming out of this conference and going for the cup this year. So in any equation that has Gauthier sitting on the bench, and not that he's the key to the future, it's just that he might be one of those guys that can be a real big contributor. Blackwell is the guy they put in front of the net. And as we discussed the other day on the power play, and we discussed the other day, unless it's a situation where Gauthier literally can't tip a puck, like if they've run those drills and he whiffs every time, I don't understand why he's not the guy in the middle on that side. Figure it out. Figure out the roles that these guys can contribute on. Contribute to. I mean, Gautier's got a point today on one of the goals. He got one of the assists. He's consistently driving towards the net. He fucks up defensively. Okay, well, I get it. So did Buchnevich for 4 years, for Christ's sakes.
Right.
And he's playing on the first line. And Buchnevich never had and never will have the tools that Gauthier has. So I know we beat the drum on that guy, but he's shown more flashes to me of capability and of upside than even Hedl, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, Hedl doesn't drive to the net. I mean, at all. So, and if Blackwell at 5 foot whatever can be tipping pucks, you're right. I mean, Gauthier, who's much taller, much bigger, should be able to do it. That's Kreider's specialty. Kreider, that's his spot on the power plays, to stand in front of the net, big guy, big presence, good at tipping pucks. That's what he does. And Gauthier is compared to Kreider very much. He's like a righty version of Kreider. They're both fast. Gauthier actually probably has better hands than Kreider does. I know you definitely believe that, Dad. But, there's upside, and you got to at least try, because the Rangers know this. That they know what we know. Blackwell will not be here next year. There's no shot. There's no chance that he will be here next year. That's why the Rangers got rid of Jesper Fast, because the front office knew, okay, we're going to play him while we have him, but he's not going to stay here long term because he doesn't fit. Same thing with Blackwell. So,
yeah, that's a great point, by the way, because you could argue, because of all the roles that Blackwell plays, the power play, he plays the penalty kill, right? And he's getting fourth line minutes, and he was in the top 6. You could argue that he was the new Jesper Fast, and that he was a better fucking version of it, because he's more dynamic of a skater and so forth. And maybe Fast did magical things when the camera wasn't on him, and he was just sprinkled fairy dust in the locker room. I don't fucking know, but he was obviously beloved, and he was always talked about as being this brilliant fucking contributor. Great. But Blackwell's got more fucking goals, and he's playing on all the same goddamn roles that Fast did. In fact, more roles, because he's on the power play. And yet Fast was expendable after being, after no doubt having, they had the ability to sign him, because it wasn't like he was going to break the bank. So money played a part of it, but they made a calculated decision that he didn't have a role here. So if he didn't, how the fuck does Blackwell, when you got guys like Kravtsov and Gauthier in play here? It doesn't make a lick of sense.
No, it doesn't. And Foss this year, 4 goals, 10 assists, 28 games, -5. So he's lost all, and Mr. Defense is a -5. But
yeah, and by the way, on a team that is, if I look it up quickly here, He's -5 on a team that is +28.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Foss is amazing.
I mean, now listen, he's playing in all those roles. So he might be on ice for like after he's playing. He's probably killing penalties. He might be on the ice for those goals that just come after the penalty, where you're still on the ice and you're dead tired, and so you get the money. But still, you're -5, and you've contributed half a point a game, and you're I don't get it. I don't get it. He's and there's nobody would ever. I don't think anybody would ever say, "Oh, I wish I had Fost for the next 5 years," when you got Gauthier and
Right.
Krastov, already under ink.
No, I mean, I completely agree. And yeah, I mean, at least they let him go, because I mean, we were on that train the whole season last year of, okay, this better be it for him. And yeah, I mean, again, Rangers got a big month coming up. This is it. This is crunch time. If they're serious about making the playoffs, this is not time for, oh, that was a cute game. Nice job. You did some things right. Again, we're not going to be emotionally upset. If you guys have been listening to our pods consistently, we were dead wrong about 3 pods ago saying the season was over. So they've outperformed that expectation from us. We're happy just seeing that. But again, if the team is going to sit there and they're going to say, we're in this mix, we want to make the playoffs, you got to go into Buffalo, win both. You got to play Pittsburgh and get 3 out of 4 points. Like I said, split with the Islanders, win 3 out of 4 versus the Devils. And then, final 2 weeks of the season, we'll be there when we're there. But we'll see. We'll see. So
yeah, look. I mean, look what they did there. I think they were like 4-1 or 5-1, and then now we're into a stretch of 2 straight losses, right? That's what teams like this do. They, like I said earlier, they don't know why. Sometimes they don't know why they're successful, and sometimes they don't know why they're not. So, young teams don't have that data storage in the back of their head that says these are the things that have won for the last 5 years, and these too many kids figuring it out for them to be from what I consider to be a legitimate candidate for the playoffs this year. Just for shits and giggles, I hope I'm wrong, right? I'd love to see them play in the playoffs just to extend the season. I mean, not because I think they're going anywhere, but what I'm more interested in is just throw out the guys that logic dictates should be part of the future. And then
yeah, that's why I'd be putting Browne in here. Whatever role you can, figure him out. Just see. Even if and again, he's not a 4th line guy, just put him on the team. We just to see what he can do. And again, we keep saying how great the month of March is. At the end of the day, the Rangers are 8-6-1 in March. And if they beat the Capitals, they're 9-6-1. So we're talking about all these things. Zibanejad playing out of his mind, Fox, Panarin, all these guys, and you're still sitting there 8-6-1. So again, it looks great. You see these games where you see great things, but it's still a 500 hockey team at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And their real plus minus differential
is showing that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, Alain Vigneault was kind enough to, allow his inefficiencies to come through in those 2 games as a coach.
Yeah.
And, get outscored 17-3. Very kind of him, but that's not who this team is. So, when you're plus 15 as a team on the season, you're plus 14 in 2 games. That says it all. But we'll end it like we always end it, which is this is a good time to be a Ranger fan. Something good's going to happen. They got good guys at the top of this organization that understand how to build teams. You can't forget the fact that JD was instrumental in building. I think first Nashville. Where did he go first?
St. Louis, and then Columbus. Yeah,
yeah, and then on Columbus, and both of those organizations are stable. They've had good runs, and one of them won a cup not so long after he left. So, long enough, but still, he was part of the building blocks. There's no doubt about it. So hopefully he's the guy. I would love it for that to be the case. I mean, any Ranger fan of my age grew up listening to Davidson. learned everything they know about hockey, or most of it, from him. So for him to redeliver the cup, because let's face it, guys, 54 years was the mantra, right? Well, we're at 27 years now, so we're at half the time that it happened the first time, and that's it's going to be probably 28, 29, 30 years between, when, realistically speaking, unless some miracle happens, because they ain't winning it this year. I ain't winning next year. I don't think the year after that. This is a long look at Colorado with all their talent. They still can't get over the hump.
Yeah, I mean they're plus 38 right now too, and I saw their top five in basically everything. So I mean they got to do it this year. Period. I mean, if you're looking at a team, the Lightning were the team last year, year after year after year. St. Louis, year after year after year, trying to do it. The next team in that group is Colorado. That every year they're there and they can't do it. They got to do it. But yeah, hey, it's going to be fun for us this week too on Thursday. Opening day for the Yankees. We got opening day at 1:00. The Rangers play that night, so I'm blocking off everything on Thursday. I'm going to have a nice day, both my teams in one day. So I'm looking forward to that. We're going to do another Strictly Yankees before that. We've been behind on Strictly Baseball. I get that, but we're going to try and double pod it this week and get some stuff out there because Steve came down here to do some games. He got sick. Blah blah blah. So we're going to figure it out, and then Strictly Sports. Got to do that as well. NFL draft at the end of the month. Free agency is basically done. Got to talk about that stuff. That's coming soon as well. And Strictly Hockey, of course, as well. We got to do soon as well. Talk about the rest of the NHL so that people don't just call me a Ranger diehard. Because I'm telling you, every time I open my mouth about the Rangers on that pod, someone's like, oh, you only talk about the Rangers. I like the NHL, okay? So I want to talk about the rest of it too. So hopefully we do a pod this week as well. So you can follow us on Twitter at Strictly Sports P, on Facebook and Instagram at Strictly Sports Productions. We're on YouTube. You can look up Strictly Sports Productions on YouTube. In the playlist section, we have all the pods organized. You can look at all 5 of them. They're right there. And you can listen to us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of other ones as well. So for my dad, I am Jacob Browne, and we will see you soon.